Using ounce equivalents for grains in the CACFP, presented by Our Daily Bread CACFP. So let's get started. Today we will discuss how to use ounce equivalents for grains in the CACFP. The USDA's Team Nutrition initiatives have created a worksheet on using ounce equivalents for grains in the CACFP. You can download this worksheet from the web address on the screen if you'd like. You can also just follow along with the pictures shown on the slides. How much is 1 ounce equivalent? In the CACFP, grains are measured in units we call ounce equivalents. 1 ounce equivalent of grains is the amount of food you need to make up 16 grams of grains. As you see on the screen, not all crackers contain the same amount of grains per cracker. In today's marketplace, we have big crackers, small crackers, thick crackers, thin crackers, fish-shaped crackers, bear crackers, a lot of different types of crackers. It takes different amounts of different types of crackers to provide 16 grams of grain or 1 ounce equivalent. For example, 20 small cheese crackers contain 16 grams of grain. So 20 small cheese crackers equals 1 ounce equivalent. 12 thin or wheat crackers contain 16 grams of grain and equals 1 ounce equivalent. Finally, 5 woven whole wheat crackers are needed to provide 16 grams of grains or 1 ounce equivalent of grains. Notice you need more of these smaller crackers to get 16 grams of grain, and you need fewer of the larger crackers to get 16 grams of grain. Page 2 through 4 of the worksheet includes the grains measuring chart. This chart includes household measures of over 40 common grain items listed in alphabetical order. You can find the names of the grain items in the first column of your chart. Each item is listed with the amount of the item you need to make up a 1/2 ounce equivalent of grains, which is the minimum amount of grains required for 1 through 5-year-olds at all CACFP meals and snacks. This is shown on the second column of each chart. Each item is also listed with the amount you need to make up 1 ounce equivalent of grains, which is the minimum amount of grains that 6 through 18-year-olds need at meals and snacks. If you choose to serve grains to adult participants as part of the CACFP snack, you must serve at least 1 ounce equivalent of grains as well. And finally, each grain item in the chart is listed with the amount of an item you need to make up 2 ounce equivalents of grains. 2 ounce equivalents of grains is the minimum amount of grains required for adult participants at breakfast, lunch, and supper. As I mentioned, this chart has over 40 grain items that might be commonly served in the CACFP. If you want to serve a grain item that is not listed on the chart, we will talk about other tools you can use at the end of today's session. This chart is designed to grab and go so that someone could just pick it up and start using it. For those who might like instructions, we also include steps on how to use the chart on page 1 of the worksheet. So let's take a look at page 1 now. You can find directions on how to use the chart on the bottom of the first page. To use the chart, the first step is to find the grain you want to serve under the grain item and size column. Let's say you want to serve popcorn at snack to 10-year-olds at your after-school site. The first step is to find popcorn in the grains measuring chart. After you find the item you want to serve, check and see if there is a size or weight by the name of the grain item. Popcorn does not have a size or weight listed by the name, so you don't need to first verify that the popcorn we want to serve weighs a certain amount or is a certain size. You can move on to the next step. The third step is to find the column for the age of the participant and the meal or snack you are serving. If you want to serve popcorn to 10-year-olds snack, you will look for the 6 through 18-year-old column and find that column all the way down to the popcorn row. The popcorn row and the 6 through 18-year-old column intersect at 3 cups. This tells us that we need to serve 3 cups of popcorn to meet the minimum amount of grains required for 6 through 18-year-olds at snack in the CACFP. Let's practice using the grains measuring chart with this question now. Take a look at the grains measuring chart in the worksheet or on the screen. Let's say you want to serve oatmeal to 4-year-olds at breakfast. How many cups of cooked oatmeal do you need to serve to meet minimum required amounts of grains at breakfast in the CACFP? Raise your hand if you think you need to serve at least 1 cup of cooked oatmeal. Okay, how about 2 cups of cooked oatmeal? How about 1/4 cup of cooked oatmeal? Or 1/2 cup of cooked oatmeal? All right, nice work, everyone. The answer is 1/4 cup cooked oatmeal. You need to serve at least a 1/4 cup of cooked oatmeal to each 4-year-old in order to meet the minimum required amount of grains at breakfast for 4-year-olds in the CACFP. Let's take a look at how we got that answer. First, we find the food we want to serve, which is oatmeal. Step 2 shows us that the oatmeal does not have any weights or sizes next to it, so we don't need to check the size of the oatmeal to know that we can use a chart. Our next step is to find the age of our participants and the meal. We are serving 4-year-olds at breakfast, so we follow the 1 through 5-year-olds column down to the oatmeal row. If you look at where the 1 through 5-year-olds column meets the oatmeal row, it tells us that we need to serve a 1/4 cup of cooked oatmeal to meet the 1/2 ounce equivalent required for grains at breakfast for the age group. Now, as we mentioned, the popcorn and the oatmeal do not have any weights or sizes listed next to it. However, some items on the chart have weights or sizes listed next to them. So let's take a closer look at how you would use a chart for those types of foods. The first step is the same. We find our food in the chart. Now let's take a look at the mini twist hard pretzels now. They are sometimes also called tiny twist, and an example of these pretzels are shown on the screen. Step 2 tells us that if the chart lists a size by the grain, the item names. Step 2 tells us that if the chart lists a size by the grain item's name, then we need to make sure that the grain item we want to serve is the same size or larger than the size listed in the grains measuring chart. In this case, our pretzel must be at least 1 1/4 inch long by 1 1/2 inch wide. So, how can you tell the size of the pretzel you want to serve? Page 6 of the worksheet provides more information about measuring and sizes. So let's take a look at page 6 now. The bottom of page 6 has a section called Grains Measuring Tools that you can use to see if your item is the same size or larger than what's listed in the grains measuring chart. You will see that there are some shapes of common sizes of crackers and other grains, such as circles and squares, as well as a ruler at the bottom. If you had a grain item that matches the shapes in the grains measuring tools, such as a round cracker, you can measure the item with the ruler on the bottom, as shown on the screen with the cracker labeled option 1. You could also place the grain item over the shape to see the item was the same size or larger as you see on the cracker labeled option 2. Either method of measuring would be correct. The grain item in our example is pretzels, and because there is no pretzel shape in the grains measuring tools, we will use the ruler at the bottom to measure our pretzel. Let's take a look at the pretzel now. The ruler shows us that this pretzel is about 1 1/2 inches across. Let's rotate the pretzel to see how tall it is. This ruler shows that the pretzel is 1.5 inches tall as well. Now we know that the pretzel measures 1.5 inches wide by 1.5 inches tall. Now that we have measured the pretzel, let's try another practice question. Take a look at the grains measuring chart in your worksheet. Is this 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch pretzel the same size or larger than the hard mini twist pretzel listed in the grains measuring chart? Raise your hand if you think yes. This pretzel is the same size or larger than the pretzel listed in the grains measuring chart. Now raise your hand if you think no, this pretzel is not the same size or larger than the pretzel listed in the grains measuring chart. All right, nice work, everybody. The answer is yes. This pretzel is larger than the ones listed in the chart. The grains measuring chart says that hard mini twist pretzels must measure at least 1.25 inch by 1.5 inches. The pretzel in our example measures 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, which is larger than 1.25 inches by 1.5 inches. So now we know that we can use the grains measuring chart to see how many pretzels to serve. Now that we know that we can use the grains measuring chart with this pretzel, our last step is to find the column for the age of your participants and the meal or snack you are serving. Let's try another practice question with that now. Look at the grains measuring chart in the worksheet or on your screen. Let's say you want to serve pretzels to 8-year-olds at snack. How many mini twist hard pretzels do you need to serve to meet the minimum requirement amount of grains at snack in the CACFP? Raise your hand if you think you need to serve at least 7 twists. Okay, how about 11 twists? How about 14 twists? Or how about 27 twists? Nice work, everyone. We need to serve 14 mini twist hard pretzels to meet the minimum amount required for grains for 8-year-olds at snack in the CACFP. Let's take a look at how we got that answer. First, we found the food we want to serve, which was listed as pretzel hard mini twist. Step 2 shows us that the pretzel had a measurement next to it. So we made sure our pretzel was the same size or larger than the measurement on the chart. Because our pretzels were larger, we knew we could use the grains measuring chart to see how many pretzels we needed to meet the minimum amount of grains required at CACFP meals and snacks. Our last step was to find the age of our participants in the meal. We are serving 8-year-olds at snack, and 8-year-olds fall into the age group of 6 through 18-year-olds. We follow the 6 through 18-year-olds column down to the pretzel hard mini twist now. We follow the 6 through 18-year-olds column down to the pretzel hard mini twist row. If you look at where the 6 through 18-year-olds column meets the pretzel row, it tells us that we need to serve 14 hard mini twist pretzels to meet the minimum amount of grains required at snack for this age group. Nice work, everybody. So far, we talked about what you do if you have a grain that doesn't have a weight or measurement next to it, like our popcorn and oatmeal, as well as what you do if it has a measurement next to it, like the mini twist hard pretzels. Now, let's talk about what to do if you find your item in step 1 and the item has a weight next to it, like pita bread. Go back to the front page of your worksheet. Step 2 tells us that if the chart lists a minimum weight by the grain, such as at least 56 grams, then we need to use the nutritional facts label for the item to make sure that the item weighs the same or more than the grains on the chart. When we look at the nutritional facts label, we will be looking at the information in the serving size line. This label for the brand P pita bread rounds shows us that one serving of bread P pita rounds weighs 57 grams. This label also shows us that there is one pita round in one serving. Therefore, we know that one brand pita round weighs 57 grams. Now that we know that one pita round weighs 57 grams, we can compare the weight of one pita round to the weight listed next to the pita bread in the chart. Let's do that now as a practice question. Take a look at the grains measuring chart and find pita bread. Now look at the nutritional facts label for brand P pita rounds on the screen. Does one brand P pita round weigh the same or more than the pita bread listed in the grains measuring chart? Raise your hand if you think yes. One brand P pita round weighs the same or more than the pita bread listed in the grains measuring chart. Now raise your hand if you think no. One brand P pita round does not weigh the same or more than the pita bread listed in the grains measuring chart. All right, great job, everybody. Yes, one brand P pita round weighs the same or more than the pita bread listed in the chart. We know the answer is yes because the weight by the pita bread in the chart is at least 56 grams. The nutritional facts label for brand P pita rounds tells us that one pita round weighs 57 grams. Because one brand P pita round weighs more than the pita listed in the grains measuring chart, we know we can use the chart to tell us how many brand P pita rounds to serve in order to meet CACFP meal pattern requirements. Now that we've checked that brand P pita rounds weigh the same or more than the pita bread listed in the grains measuring chart, the last step is to find the column for the age of your participants and the meal or snack you are serving. Look at the grains measuring chart in your worksheet on the screen. Let's say you want to serve pita bread to 3-year-olds at lunch. How many brand P pita rounds do you need to serve to meet the minimum required amount of grains at lunch in the CACFP? Raise your hand if you think you need to serve at least 1/4 of pita round. Okay, how about 1/2 of a pita round? All right, how about one pita round? Or how about 2 pita rounds? All right, thank you guys so much. We need to serve 1/4 of a brand P pita round to meet the minimum amount required of grains for 3-year-olds at lunch in the CACFP. To get our answer, we found the food we wanted to serve, which was listed as pita bread/round. Step 2 showed us that the pita bread had a weight of at least 56 grams next to it. So we made sure the pita bread we wanted to serve was the same weight or heavier than the weight listed in the chart. Because the pita bread we wanted to serve was heavier than the one listed in the grains measuring chart, we knew we could use the grains measuring chart to see how much of the pita bread we needed to meet the minimum amount of grains required at CACFP meals and snacks. Our last step was to find the age of our participants in the meal. We are serving 3-year-olds at lunch, so we would choose the 1 through 5-year-olds column. We follow the 1 through 5-year-olds column down to the pita bread/round row. If you look at where the 1 through 5-year-olds column meets the pita bread/round row, it tells us that we need to serve 1/4 or 1/4 of the pita bread round to meet the minimum amount of grains required at snack for this age group. So with the brand P pita bread, we saw that one pita round was one serving, and that one pita round weighed 57 grams. But sometimes the nutritional facts label will list more than one item as a serving, such as 2 taco shells or 3 pancakes. Page 5 of the worksheet looks at what to do when this happens. So let's take a look at page 5 now. The first step on page 5 is the same as the first step on page 1. Find the grain item and its minimum weight in the grains measuring chart. Note that on page 5, the example we are using here is pancakes. So we look at the rows that say pancakes and find the minimum weight of at least 34 grams. The second step is to look at the weight of the serving size of the pancakes we want to serve. On nutritional facts labels, the weight listed is usually the one serving of the food. On nutrition facts labels, the weight listed is usually for one serving of the food. Looking at the label for bran pea pancakes, we see that one serving of bran pea pancakes weighs 117 grams. Our next step is to look at how many items are in one serving. Looking at this nutrition facts label, we see that there are 3 pancakes in one serving of bran pea pancakes. On page 4, step 4 tells us that we have more than one of an item in a serving. You will need to divide to find how much one item weighs. Because one serving of bran pea pancakes has 3 pancakes, we know we will need to divide to find out the weight of one pancake. We know from step 3 that one serving weighs 117 grams. We also know that there are 3 pancakes in one serving. So we divide 117 by 3 to find the weight of one pancake. When we do, we find that one bran pea pancake weighs 39 grams. Now that we know the weight of one pancake, we can compare that weight to the weight of the pancake listed in the grains measuring chart. Okay, everyone, one last practice question. Look at the grains measuring chart in your worksheet or on the screen in front of you. Is one bran pea pancake the same weight or heavier than the weight of the pancake listed in the grains measuring chart? Raise your hand if you think yes, one bran pea pancake is the same weight or heavier than the weight of the pancake listed in the grains measuring chart. Raise your hand if you think no, one bran pea pancake is not the same weight or heavier than the pancake listed in the grains measuring chart. All right, great job, everybody. The answer is yes. One bran pea pancake is the same weight or heavier than the weight of the pancake listed in the chart. We know this because one bran pea pancake weighs 39 grams. The grains measuring chart lists pancakes with a minimum weight of 34 grams. 39 is bigger than 34, so we know that one bran pea pancake is heavier than the minimum weight for pancakes listed in the chart. If the weight of the item you want to serve is the same weight or heavier than what's listed on the grains measuring chart, you can use the grains measuring chart to see how much of that item you need to serve to meet CACFP meal pattern requirements. So now we proceed in the same way we did with all the other examples. Let's say you want to serve bran pea pancakes to adult participants at breakfast. You would find the adults at breakfast column and then follow that column down to the pancake row. If you look at where the adults at breakfast, lunch, and supper column meets the pancake row, it tells us that we need to serve 2 pancakes in order to meet the minimum amount of grains required at breakfast for adult participants. Very quickly, I just wanted to point out that adults have different requirements for grain amounts at snack versus meals. If you want to serve grains at snack to adult participants, you need to serve at least 1 ounce equal of grain. So you would look at the middle column of the chart. If you want to serve grains at breakfast, lunch, or supper to adult participants, you need to serve at least 2 ounce equivalents of grains. So you would look at the column on the right side of the chart. This is different from the other age groups, where the minimum amount of grains required is the same for meals as it is for snacks. Our Daily Bread CACFP has an ounce equivalent grain calculator located on our website. Seen here, you can simply select the grain item you would like to serve. Step 2 asks for the units per serving size. For our example, it is 5 crackers. And step 3 asks for the weight of the serving in grams, which is green in our example. Once you select Calculate, this handy calculator will tell you exactly how much you need to serve for each age group to meet the CACFP meal pattern requirement. These training slides were provided by the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Team Nutrition. If you would like to learn more about Team Nutrition and the additional resources available, please visit their website, subscribe to their newsletter, and connect with them via email at teamnutrition@usda.gov and follow them on Twitter. Thank you so much.